Well, something's not working. Hey, Autumn, it's Jeremy. Bolom. Hey, I got in, but it's like it's creating its own meeting just for me. It's very strange. Because are you already logged in? Okay. 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 Because I mean, I'm the only one in there right now, so that's why I was like, surely it's not. And it didn't ask for a meeting passcode or anything either, which I thought was strange. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, I just making sure I'm in the right place.
Good morning, everybody. This is Denise at Central Plains Library System. And this morning we have Jeremy Bolom. He's the Assistant Director and the Head of Public Service at the Lincoln Parish Library in Louisiana. And he has drawn from various sources and personal experiences, including successes and failures that we all understand, and has discovered how one hot-headed and persnickety librarian could find a slice of inner peace and can even sleep at night. Ideas and examples for self-care and stress management will be given. So thank you, Jeremy.
No problem. Thank you, Denise. Thank you all for having me. And I'm so excited to see that you did an entire month of mental health stuff for May. That's excellent. So I'm glad to be here. And caveat, I'm a librarian, not a healthcare professional. I don't even play one on TV. So why me and this topic? Well, once upon a time, I was in a place in my life where I was overwhelmed and a lot of things were going on in my personal life as well as my professional life at the very same time. And it was just overlapping, and I was kind of at my wit's end. And then all of a sudden I remembered, oh, well, you have all these books of meditation and self-care hanging around. So why don't you actually do something with those? And I did. And it was the reason that I made it through that rough patch in my life. And so anytime I get to the point where, you know, stuff is bad, I always have to remind myself that I can go back here. And the reason why I did this as a presentation for librarians is because part of that stress comes from just being a library professional, because a lot of the times you're susceptible to the stress of lots of things, but mainly because we care, which is the emotional side of our job. You care for your patrons, you care for the library system, you want to do your best job. So that stress is inherent with jobs. So I just wanted to give a couple of tips, quick and easy way to get started in this. And the one thing I want to say is that self-care, and especially mindfulness, is a practice, and it's either something you do, you should be doing on a regular basis. But if not, if you fall and fail, like I've done many a times with this, it's real easy to pick it back up and to reap the benefits again and again every single time. So like even last night when I was like, oh no, I have to give this presentation in the morning, so let me go ahead and do my little pre-sleep check. I was actually asleep within a couple of seconds. So it's great how you can just fall back on it, because it's kind of like riding a bicycle once you know how to get going. So yes, it's very beneficial. So I'm talking about two topics here, and they're pretty much interchangeable. Self-care and mindfulness. I'm moving y'all's videos out of the way here for me. And they are really two different things. So here are the definitions. Self-care, this one is taken from the OED. It says the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's health. But the second part of it is what's the most important thing. And it's asking first what you need and then following through with an honest answer. So that's the kicker right there. Knowing what you need and then following through with an honest answer. Don't do, what somebody else is doing because it's trendy. You need to do what's right for you. I call this me time as well. So if I'm talking about me time later, I'm talking about self-care. So another definition of self-care that I saw in several other books put together here is a prolonged, pleasurable time resulting in peace, happiness, and rejuvenation, which is what we all want, right? You need to have some kind of thing that just all of a sudden recharges your battery, resets your brain, and just reduces all that stress. So you can think of self-care as the easy way to do that. And there are some easy ways to do that. Now, mindfulness, on the other hand, and I mentioned this earlier, is a practice. And the reason it's a practice is because it comes from the East. And a lot of things that come from the East are very, they have a special mindset of the way things go, and they call it a practice. And it really kind of is after a while, because we don't do this in the West. And the reason mindfulness is really hard for us is because we're always thinking of the next television show. When is lunch? When is my next break? Who am I supposed to pick up after school? Who's got a soccer game this afternoon? You're constantly thinking of the future. And the problem, and so we get stuck in that mindset, and that's where a lot of stress comes from. So mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way and on purpose so that you stay in the present moment and you're non-judgmental about what's going on. So if you're feeling stressed and you acknowledge that, you don't judge your stress, there's a reason that it's there, and you cope with it, and then you move on. So in Thich Nhat Hanh, who is an Eastern philosopher who has just passed, wrote a wonderful book about mindfulness, and his explanations in there are so great because they're so basic and they're an easy way for us to understand. His easiest example is, when you're washing the dishes, do you ever think that you're washing the dishes? Or are you worried about what you're going to be doing after you're washing the dishes? So that's a good place to start, is somewhere basic like that. I'm going to wash the dishes tonight, and I'm only going to wash the dishes. And then after you wash the dishes and finish that task, you'll be amazed at how ready and how more rested you are to go on to your next task. So that was one of his little points in that book. And he gives lots of examples of that and how that works. And so that's mindfulness at a basic level. But also mindfulness usually goes hand in hand with meditation. And I am going to talk about meditation and the benefits of that as we go along. Meditation is really a practice of focusing on your breathing and really nothing else. It kind of empties your mind and calms what I think it was Buddha that said, calms the monkey mind. We have a monkey mind. The brain likes to jump from one tree to another, one thought to another, and just make lots of chatter. So it's to calm down that mind. All right, benefits of self-care and mindfulness. These are kind of obvious. For self-care, you're going to have better health. It's going to boost your self-esteem and confidence because you're going to feel more rested. You have a sense of self-worth. It'll reduce burnout pretty magically as well, because you're going to have a work-life balance, because you're probably, if you need some self-care, you probably are out of balance somewhere. It'll increase your capacity for empathy. It helps you mentally. It's going to build resilience. This again is a good mental benefit. The benefit of resilience is that when you get knocked down the next time, it doesn't take you as long to get back up when that happens. So that's the beauty of resilience. And of course, this models healthy behavior to others. If you practice self-care and make sure other people know that you value that, then you're modeling good self-care behavior to other people. The benefits of mindfulness are all of the above, of course. You've got better health, boosts your self-esteem and confidence, reduces burnout, increases your capacity for empathy, and builds resilience. and you even become a more healthy model for others. But it also can do a lot of things. And the wonderful thing about mindfulness, and especially meditation, is that there's been a lot of Western medicine studies done on this practice, and they found out that all of this is true, that you will gain a greater awareness, clarity, and acceptance of your current reality. It will control anxiety and stress, just like kind of like magic. It's pretty great. And because it strengthens the brain both cognitively and emotionally at the same time. And of course, if you have a healthier brain, then you're going to have a healthier body. And other health benefits that usually come out of this, and I mentioned this in earlier, is that you can actually sleep better. When you have better stress management and you can learn to relax your mind, you can sleep better, deal with all of the stresses. And when you get in another heated position, you can fall back on the feelings of meditation to get you through that situation. It's also used for pain management. There's several books written on using meditation for pain management, so that's great as well. Okay, so here's my self-care quick guide. I'm all about practical and getting things done. And if some of these people who wrote these books probably ever find out that this presentation exists, they'll probably be like, who is this dude trying to make this so fast? But I boil it down to the basics. So again, self-care is asking for what you need and following through with an honest answer. To me, this is the difference between living versus existing. You're just, because some days you feel like so many things are going on and you're so stressed that you're just making it through the day. We want to get back to being able to enjoy that day that you just lived. And it's also the difference between thriving and surviving. We don't want to be in survival mode 24/7 because that's exhausting. COVID really taught us that survival mode is very, very, very exhausting. It was a trying time for a lot of people. And one of the things about self-care is that this is for you, so it only has to be for you. And this can be private, personal needs that no one else needs to know about. So when I say me time, it's only for you. You don't have to include anybody else in this. And there's multiple areas of assessment, but they usually go along, and depending on what model you use, there are the physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual, personal, and professional. Usually the personal is the one that isn't always in there. And this is one of the tools, and I've sent some handouts to Autumn if she sends those out to the group later, and this is included in there. And this is one model that came from Transforming the Pain, a workbook on vicarious traumatization. And this comes from training for people who help other people deal with trauma. So this is a self-care tool that group of people came up with. So basically, if you go around the wheel and you start looking at each one of these spokes, you want all of them to be in balance, because if they're not, then your wheel's going to wobble and you're not going to be able to stay in traffic, and you're going to hit a bump on the road and it's going to send you everywhere. Or you're going to end up with a flat tire if too many of those spokes are not strong. So if you look at some of them, like personal, learn who you are, figure out what you want in life. It starts asking very personal questions. That's why I say your self-care is a very personal act, but don't feel guilty about it. That is the main thing. This is for you, and you have to be the best you can be to do what you were put here to do. So when you get that assessment, there's another one where you can score, like it takes you through each level of these, like in the physical thing, it'll say, do you have safe housing? How is your health? That kind of thing. Do you ever take walks? And you can rate all those things, and you can see where you're missing out and which ones are your weak spots. So those kinds of tests and assessments are good to take. And I do have one of those in the stuff that I sent Autumn, but you can easily find one online as well. Feel free to chat in any questions while you have them. I don't mind being interrupted. I should have said that from the beginning. Sorry about that. But here's a couple of examples of self-care, along with one of my favorite quotes in the whole world. So of course, exercise is an easy form of self-care, and that helps you develop physically. Healthy diet, another one. I'm really bad at that one. I wish gummy bears were every kind of food on the planet, and I'd be much better off. Regular sleep routine. Again, this is physical, but it's also can be under mental, because a tired mind is a stressed mind. One for a professional is to take your breaks. A good one is to relocate at lunchtime and to use your sick leave if you're sick. Don't put yourself through extra stress if you don't have to. Feel free to share some of your own in the chat if you would like, of what ideas you have for self-care or things that you do that you enjoy. Some of my other ones are hobbies. I love going back to hobbies. I learned, thanks to COVID, how much I enjoy doing puzzles. I think most of America did, because they were really hard to find after a while, and now they're in all the thrift stores. I love buying all these puzzles for 50 cents now that everybody did during COVID, and they're now donating to charity. And that's still now, I mean, I rediscovered that during COVID, that is a great way for me to de-stress. So I continue to do that. So if I'm having a particularly hard week and if the weekend's coming, then, I'm gonna grab me a 500-piece puzzle, because I can usually get those done in a couple of hours. And so, just a little bit of me time that nobody else has. Going outside and walking my dogs is another one for me for self-care. Those dogs take care of me in their own special way. So pets are a great way for self-care. Anything in the chat box? I don't see any chats popping up. A couple of other things you can do that are more textbook are to declutter. Decluttering your office is actually a form of self-care. Getting rid of that one pile in the corner of your office that's been sitting there longer than you want to remember would actually do wonders for you. Jeanette says she meditates each morning and evening with a free app called Insight Timer. Yes, there's lots. I'm going to mention that later. There's a lot of great apps that help remind you and get you to do stuff. Guided meditations are wonderful. You are correct. And even something as simple as Jennifer says she loves to declutter. Yep, that's a good one. There are other things that's such as simple as laugh. If you can have that one friend that always cheers you up, that is a touch point for self-care for sure. Even doing a good deed or remembering what you're grateful for, keeping a gratitude journal, that kind of thing. These are all easy examples of self-care. Reconnect with an old friend, things that you haven't thought about in a long time. Bringing up memories is actually, you don't want to live in the past, but to relive a favorite memory is a good form of self-care. Get back to where I'm at here. All right. So these are a couple of quick tips that you can go back to. If you remember anything from the presentation, these are the ones to remember for self-care. You need to pay emotional attention to yourself. And this can be your attitude, more than anything else. When your coworkers start looking at you like, oh my gosh, what's got her, going today? That's probably a sign that you might need a little bit of self-care, because you're in a snit because something needs to give. And I actually have one person that works for me who we know each other pretty well. So she'll tell me when that's happening. So that's kind of cool that I can trust somebody to tell me. So I know that it's time for me to go to my office and probably close the door for a couple minutes and listen to my happy song or what have you, and recharge and refocus. Which kind of goes into the next thing, rediscover your joy. If you can find the one go-to thing that always picks you up. Mine is sour gummy bears and some good songs played real loud, or going to hang out with my dogs, because they have nothing but love and licks to give. So how can you not be happy when that's going on? So find that joy and make that your anchor. Always have an anchor, and it doesn't have to be the same thing as to rediscovering your joy. It could be that one friend that always makes you laugh. But if you can identify that anchor and always know that that's where you can go back to for a quick boost, then that's a good thing to have. And I also believe in wise venting. This is not gossiping. This is a place. When all the tension builds up, it's got to have a place to go, or either it's going to make you ill. in so many ways. So if you can have a good place to vent, it can even be not a padded room. It can even be a closed room where you just scream. That's venting. And even if your staff hear you, they might get something out of that themselves if they hear you screaming in the corner of your office or something. For me, I've got a group of assistant directors and we all meet. We finally had our first meeting after COVID just last week. And it's just wonderful to be able to go into a room, a closed room with people that you know and trust and share the same experiences with, and to be able to have them be able to see your problems and be able to make sense of them. So that sharing of the venting process is very good, but just be warned of gossip. If you find yourself talking to the third person in a row about what you're venting about, I wouldn't think that would be venting. That turns into other things. And I'm a big person about reading. Well, I do lots of audiobooks too, and for advice. So where's my name? Who was it that said that? Jeanette said she has an app. So it's good to have those apps, have books that you like. I've got several that I've listed in the handouts that you'll be getting as well. And the thing about this is to make sure that you don't just have a to-read pile that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I'm going to get to that when I get to it. You have to plan it and actually do it. For me, it's like I love to read mostly fiction, but then I'll make sure I at least throw in one self-care book of some kind, at least once a month. And then I find when I finally read one, then I want to read another one after that. And then I get stuck in that groove because they give you a little boost, always a little positive. And to make time for it, of course, this is plan time. You're gonna have to find somewhere in your day or in your week to do all this. And then to keep account. And you could do that with a guided journal. They now sell several guided journals that will help you with, like, did you do your self-care today? What was it? It's also a good way, like if you're really stressed out and you need to figure out where you really are, those guided journals kind of can be a help for that. And they're not terribly expensive either. You can get them for less than $15 usually. I wouldn't buy one unless you can see what's inside, so if it connects to you better. If you want to go a little bit deeper, there are some that actually like take you on a little journey of self-discovery. That's up to you. How much of a discovery do you want to go on? So there's some fun ones for that as well. But definitely keep account. If you want to put it on your calendar, I mean, that's a way to remind you. But if you're like me, it's like I rarely even open my real calendar. So putting it on a calendar is not going to do anything for me. Did you self-care today? Well, no, I didn't. Do we count going to lunch as self-care? Then I guess I did something. All right, any questions on self-care before we go into mindfulness? All right. So mindfulness for me is one of the best acts of self-care because it is a self-care mechanism. And it exercises your brain, really. And there are two major components. There's the easy moments, and then there's the meditation. And the easy moments are just being present where you are. I mean, you can have a mindful moment just by going into your office or in the bathroom, wherever you can be alone, where you're not around coworkers if you're in the middle of a stressful day, and just sit and just be. And to just think of the present moment, not to analyze what just happened. You can focus on a spot in the wall. You can look at your hands. For me, I don't have my video on, but I have lots of reminders to stay sane on my person at all times. Seems like there's this wonderful company called Zox that makes these little inspirational bracelets. So if I know I'm having a day today, like today, I knew I was giving a presentation. So I wore the one that says, "You got this." So it's a little cheesy, but it's one of those things when you wore it that day, you know what's coming up, and have that kind of thing. So you could concentrate on something like that. If you have an affirmation that you believe in, you can think that way and just run the affirmation through your mind. But that's mindfulness. A quick way to go to mindfulness for stress reduction immediately. Harder thing to do is the meditation. And that's where the practice comes in.
Yeah.
And there are forms of mindful self-care. You can think of yoga because it incorporates breathing. That's that's a very disciplined form of self-care that's more in the
I don't
mindful
think he
realm.
ever goes to visit Dad.
I don't know who's talking. Somebody was talking. Wasn't me. Okay. And another thing I mentioned, if you have another mindful self-care is if you have an in the zone hobby. Mine would be puzzles. When I'm getting into that puzzle, I'm in the zone. I forget time. It's like I would do them that's why I quit doing them before I went to bed, because the next thing I know, it's, midnight and I'm way past my bedtime. And I'm like, but one more piece. And then I've got, well, that's full now. So let me just do that. And then by the end of it, it's, it's 2 a.m, the puzzle's done. But I mean, I had a great time doing it. I'm refreshed, but I'm still not, going to get all the sleep I need. Jeanette says she carries a couple of worry stones in her pocket. That's great. I went to the moon geode. That's beautiful. And a labradorite turtle. Yes, those kind of things as well. If you can carry something in your pocket, anything to help you remind. It could be a piece of jewelry as well. Don't think of it as a crutch, because it's not. It's just a little reminder of what you need to do. Another form of self-care that I forgot to mention is to say no. As librarians, we have a hard time saying no about things, but if you can make that a practice of actually considering give your full attention and thought to, if you want to, you have the ability to completely do what someone is asking you to do before saying yes, instead of just automatically saying yes, then give yourself that time and do not be afraid to say no. I know that's one thing that we have a hard time with. A lot of us do. Okay, so we're actually going to practice meditation. I'm sure you can't wait, because it's you're gonna get a little recharge here in the morning. So there are several different kinds of meditation, and the normal is just using the breath, counting the breath. Another way is to do a body scan where you focus on different parts of your body as you breathe in and out. This is the thing that I usually do before bedtime. I start at the top of my head and then I breathe and then go down and keep thinking. And usually about the time I get to past my shoulders, which is where I carry the world, then I'm usually close to sleep. So that's a good one for me for body scan. And we're going to do one of those too. There's also visualization, where you can either contemplate what is it right in front of you while you're focusing on your breath, or you can actually play out a scenario. I'm going to do a visualization with you as well, and we're going to actually do a little scenario. You can actually walk and meditate. This one's one that I haven't been able to try yet, because one thing is I wish we had somewhere that had a labyrinth, because if you have one of those actual labyrinths, that would be a great place to do a walking meditation. And then of course there's the guided meditations, which is basically what I'm doing for you. I'll be speaking while you do the meditation practice, but there's plenty of recordings for these. There's YouTube recordings. There's so many of these things out there. Apps that you can get that have them in there. If you have access to Hoopla or Freegal or some of those things that are library related, there's going to be some in there as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get settled, and we're going to do a basic breathing meditation. So the first thing you need to do is to sit up straight, plant your feet firmly on the floor, and you can put your hands in your lap, usually facing up when you're meditating, loose. And then you can close your eyes or softly close your eyes, soft focus. And all we're going to do is do 5 deep breaths. So breathe in. And breathe out. 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 Last time in. And last time out. Okay, take a second to just think how that was. I didn't tell you to clear your mind because that's a hard thing to do for that short period of time. Usually meditation using your breath could last for that short of time, 10 to up to 10 minutes for beginners. If anybody wants to share what they thought of that in the chat, feel free. Before we move on to body scan. One of the things about when you're doing a breathing meditation, and especially for me, who I have a really hard time keeping on my focus on the breath. And I've read several books that give tips. And one of the guys, I always thought it was funny. I think he was military because he says, think of the edge of your nostrils as the century of your breath, the century at the edge of your breath, like soldiers. And so the soldiers are always regulating the breath in and out. So you always think of the breath hitting the edge of your nostril. I was like, wow, that's intense. So that was a little much for me. And then so I found another one that was a little better, actually inspired by my Apple Watch, because when you do your breathing with Apple Watch, this little flower blooms out and then it shrinks back as you breathe out. So I think of lotus blossom, like a lotus blooming on the surface of a pond, and then I breathe out, then it floats away, and then another one comes up. So that's the way that I think of it. It's a little more calming for me, and I don't have to think of what my body's doing exactly. Oh, there's 2 comments. Let's see. Oxygen, always a good thing. Yes, it is. Yeah, tending to hold your breath when you're anxious is not good. That's a good goal to have, to make sure and not do that. More deep breathing. So it's amazing how much better you'll feel after just a couple of good deep breaths. In fact, I just watched that new movie with Sandra Bullock and Tatum Channing last night, and he tricked her into taking deep breaths a couple of times when she was in stress, and she got through. She climbed the mountain. It was great. So I was like, look, deep breathing. And he would always go, what's that smell? And she's like, I don't smell anything. He goes, but you took some deep breaths, did you? So it was great. You can even maybe trick some of your coworkers into doing that when they need to take a breath. All right, so the next one we're going to do is a body scan. And this one can feel a little strange for you because you're going to actually be thinking of different parts of your body. And what I'm going to say is when we think about that part of the body, and I'm going to say breathe in to that part of the body. So this works if you just visualize the breath going, the oxygen or the air going to that part of the body. And it will actually, you'd be surprised how easy it is for that to feel like a sensation. So again, if you would plant your feet on the floors and lay your hands in your lap, and you can either close your eyes or softly close your eyes, or let them unfocus a little bit. And we're going to start at the crown of your head. Think just of the crown of your head. Now breathe in to the crown of your head. Breathe in. And breathe out. Now think of the forehead and breathe into your forehead. Breathe in. And breathe out. Now focus on your ears. Breathe into your ears. Breathe in. And breathe out. Now for your nose. Breathe into your nose. Breathe in. And breathe out. Now think of your jaw and everything in that contains your jaw. Breathe in. And breathe out. Last one will be into the neck. Breathe in. And breathe out. Okay, take a moment to recenter, and if you want, anybody wants to share what they thought of that kind of meditation. One of the guys that wrote one of the seminal works in meditation for Westerners is John Kabat-Zinn, and another one is Jack Kornfield. Jack Kornfield does lots of guided meditations, and he has a wonderful body scan in his basic meditation CDs or recordings. I highly recommend his. And then he has several that focus on specific things that you're trying to achieve. If you need more concentration, or if you have, that kind of thing. So you can have a focus to your body scan as well, because he focuses on different parts. All right, so that's body scan, and I don't see any comments about that. Oh yeah, when you said neck, I need to drop my shoulders. Mine is always the jaw. I clench my jaw. That's where I obviously, I didn't realize that until I finally started doing body scans, and I was like, my gosh, why am I clenching my jaw so hard? And it was obviously because I always thought mine were all in my shoulders. All my stress was in my shoulders, but I found that my jaw was the same way. So again, if I'm having problem going to sleep, and I, for some reason just thought I was going to be able to go to sleep without having to do a body scan, and then all I have to remember is, what's your jaw doing, Jeremy? Guess what? It's as tight as anything. So as soon as I let that jaw go, I can get back to restfulness. All right, so the last one we're going to do is a visualization. And so we're going to go on a little walk in your mind. So again, feet flat on the floor, hands in your lap. And if you want to close your eyes, or again, soft focus, and start thinking about your perfect day with the right amount of sunshine. You can feel the sun on your skin. Wind if you want. And you're walking and you notice a tree, and beside the tree, a little stream. So walk up to the tree just so you can see everything at the same time, the tree and the stream behind it are flowing underneath it. The stream goes around the corner, kind of disappears from view. It's a peaceful view. Now take your attention to one leaf on the lowest branch of the tree. While thinking about that leaf, we're going to breathe in. And out. The tree has decided that the leaf is ready to be let go. Breathe in. And breathe out. The leaf detaches and starts falling. Breathe in. And breathe out. It's a peaceful glide downward. Breathe in. And breathe out. The leaf ever so gently lands upon the small stream. Breathe in. And breathe out. The stream starts to carry the leaf away. Breathe in. And breathe out. The leaf and the stream go around the bend. Breathe in. And breathe out. Although the leaf is no longer in view, you know it is on its own journey. Breathe in. And breathe out. All right, go ahead and take a moment to come back into the room. If anybody wants to share how that meditation felt for them in the chat window, feel free. I did one of these, not myself, but I was in a workshop where one of these lasted almost 15 minutes. We were walking in this garden and we were walking and walking and walking. 15 minutes is a little long for me for some of these things. But everybody has their sweet spot when it comes to these kind of things. And these don't have to be with your eyes closed either. You could be watching a video that works with it. And the breathing can be just normal, doesn't have to be concentrated. I usually add the breathing in just because it has an added benefit. Jeanette said she also visualized she was barefoot to help with feeling grounded. Yes, that's awesome. That's one of the things about Thich Nhat Hanh used to always say to try to meditate sometimes outside, especially sitting on the ground so that you can feel grounded to the world. That whole Eastern thought about how everything is connected is very beautiful and powerful. And visualization doesn't even have to be something where you're moving or something is moving. You can just contemplate the tree in the backyard at your house, or the tree outside the window of your office, or something like that, a mountain, a river, that kind of thing. Walking again is a little more advanced. There's a couple of good examples in some of the books that I've mentioned in the handouts. It's not anything that I perfected. Usually when I'm walking the dog, and there is no meditation in that whatsoever. It's just wrangling. And then the guided meditations are kind of what I was doing for you today, but there are so many available now for free with apps and recordings. And I've listed a couple of those as well in the handouts. All right. So again, here's my mindfulness tips from reality. If you don't take anything away from the presentation, hopefully you get at least remember these. So with mindfulness, these are moments only, not monuments. You're not trying to climb a mountain here. You're focusing on one moment in time. Oh, and I forgot to mention, all of the previous ones also work for this one as well. Paying emotional attention, knowing when it's time. Having an anchor, knowing which meditation or mindfulness practice works best for you. Again, read and listen to advice. And you have to make the time. And you can still keep account with these because there are mindfulness and meditation journals as well. And some of them are quite witty. When you start looking for them, you'll see, oh my. because, you know, stressful people can say really fun things. So you can find some doozies of some guided journals. In fact, I have one, and it's kind of fun. Okay, so moments, not monuments. One thing at a time, one breath at a time. And practice, practice, practice. And even when life throws you a curveball and you feel like you're, you know, that you failed, that is one thing about the Eastern philosophy. You have never failed. You have never done anything wrong. You haven't done meditation wrong. It's only a practice. That's one of the reasons why they call it a practice. So even if you stop, it's okay to start up again at another time. And to recognize, accept, and continue. That is another key to mindfulness, is to accept your feelings and whatever faults you have going on at the moment. To accept them, acknowledge them, and just to continue. It's a really hard thing for us to do because we're like, well, I'm a perfectionist myself. And to not be able to make it through a timed 5 minutes of meditation without losing concentration a bunch of times, you know, it's not the way that I want it to go. But you have to learn that it's okay to not make it through those 5 minutes, but to have tried to make it through those 5 minutes. This is where Yoda comes in. There is no try, only do. But it would be the other way, Yoda. We do try, and it means something. Trying and doing are basically the same thing in this. Be a attention seeker. This Denise mentioned that she realized that she needed to drop her shoulders. So know where your tensions are so that you can seek them out when you're having a bad minute and to attack those. Like if I'm nervous and I'm getting ready to talk to a patron that is angry or something, I'm like, okay, Jeremy, let the jaw go before you go into this so that you've already released some of your own tension before talking to this person. Or take a couple of deep breaths before, as I'm walking over there. They can't see your breath. So, you know, take a couple of deep breaths. Know where your tension is and how to do that. One of the things that I like is soundscapes. Some of my office mates back where I'm hanging out back here often by my office and probably wonder what the heck is coming out of my speakers. But I actively try to find things that are kind of white noise or things that are just not too melodic, that just fill the time, but also keep my brain engaged. I've included a couple of those as well in your handout. There's a whole series of music for mindfulness. Those are a little more melodic. I tend to like the other things a little better. There's also in true meditation classes, they often do these things called sound baths with the Tibetan singing bowls, which can be quite beautiful if done well. In fact, there was on Facebook not too long ago, one of the groups that I follow called Voices 8 actually did a piece where they hummed and did with singing bowls. It was really beautiful. So that kind of thing, you know, just let the sound bathe over you to wash away some of that. And Jeanette says she's got 2 singing bowls at home and love them. Yeah, they're pretty. Only wind chimes sounded like that, not so harsh. And of course, this is a given, stay mindful, but it just bears to be repeated. The problem will always be there later, and you don't know what the future holds, so just stay mindful in the present. The way you're reacting right now will determine how the day will go. So if you're constantly worrying about the meeting at 5, when you get to the meeting at 5, you probably may not be prepared for the meeting at 5 because all you've been doing is worrying about it. Same thing with this presentation. I've done it several times and I always take the binder home and it's like, I'm going to look at it, I'm going to do this and that. And then I don't, because I stress about it too much if I keep looking at it. Like, well, I could have said something better, but I always could have said something better. I do the best I can in the moment. So hopefully it's okay. So stay mindful where you are. And the couple of times where I've stumbled or something is where I got in my mind a little bit. Like, did I say what I was supposed to say? And then I had a hiccup or skip something. So stay mindful in the moment. Let go. This is a big one. And it's kind of one of those things that people have a hard time of. This is where psychologists make a lot of money, to teach people to let go of lots of things. But for practitioners of mindfulness, especially those from the East, it's like letting go is just part of the process. Again, you're not in the moment. That's the past. So it shouldn't be of importance. You've learned from it, and so you need to let it go. John Kabat-Zinn, he wrote "Wherever You Go, There You Are," which is like the seminal Western version of mindfulness and meditation practice. If you read one book on that, on this topic, I recommend that one. And he says, to let go means to give up coercing, resisting, or struggling in exchange for something more powerful and wholesome, which comes out of allowing things to be just as they are without getting caught up in your attraction to or rejection of them. It's akin to letting your palm open to unhand something you have been holding onto. So you can even visualize that in a meditation if you'd like. It's like, this problem has been bothering me for weeks, so I'm going to go, let go of it. And you can include that in your meditation where you're holding on to it and you keep letting go of it. And then just holding the hands closed and then opening them and thinking about that can be a powerful thing to do. And of course, just breathe. Everything goes back to the breath. And there's a reason why that's the focus of this practice, is because more oxygen opens lots of things. Your body wakes back up. The deeper the breaths you can get, your fingers start to tingle. It's like, wow, they weren't getting any oxygen all day long, that kind of thing. So, so just breathe in the moment. If you can get a couple of breaths in before it happens, or as the tension begins, then you're already won half the battle. Okay, so that's it for me. These are the three main ones that I recommend. Wherever You Go, There You Are, Mindfulness, Meditation, and Everyday Life by John Kabat-Zinn. And he was the first Westerner really to bring this to light in an American kind of Western way. For self-care, there's so many great books for self-care. I mean, you can go to the library. You can go to the library and probably find some great stuff. If not, go to the bookstore. I always look for the little cute ones that have all the fun pictures in it, colorful pages, because at heart, all I want to do is read picture books all day. This one is a good cross between Cheek and Wisdom, The Wisdom of a Humble Jellyfish and Other Self-Care Rituals from Nature. She goes through different weird animals and tells you how they manage their self-care and what their little personality traits are that are their self-care go-to, which is pretty cool way to remember some self-care tips. And then, of course, Thich Nhat Hanh, being one of the big Eastern people who helped bring mindfulness to the West and has done a lot. And has just passed the Miracle of Mindfulness Introduction to the Practice of Meditation. He goes deep into the meditation, but he's also the one where I got the story about washing the dishes. And, I think he even has one where it's like making tea, another big one for them, because making tea is a practice. So if you read one of anything, I would pick one of these three. All right, any questions? For me, that's what I've got for you today. I hope you got something out of it. And if not anything, you've had an hour to think about yourself and your own stress. And hopefully that will let some of it go for the rest of the day. And you're ready to conquer the week.
Well, we're much more ready after hearing your presentation, Jeremy. I really appreciated you coming and joining us. You gave me lots of things to think about. I feel like you can benefit the thing. And Jeanette said this was her absolute most favorite webinar. Yay. I love it when we have people's favorite webinars. So, all righty. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. We've got one more week of Mental Health Mondays. So we'll see you again next week. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Denise and Autumn.
Thanks, Jeremy.